It's exam time. What happens when you hear those words, or the words exam week? What do you think of? Probably not the best thoughts come to mind, but half days come to mind, I guess, so maybe that's a good part. But just as with physical school exams, you must study and prepare, so it is with life. And life continues day in and day out with tests. And there's always another test. And it's meant by God to strengthen you. Of course, the enemy comes in and tries to destroy you through those tests as well. But God wants to strengthen you. So at 11:30 a.m., the 13th of May in 1953, Sir Edmund Hillary ascended to the top of the highest mountain in the world, Mount Everest. And at the summit, he planted the flag of the British Empire, and signifying many years of planning and preparation, and then also days of agonizing effort, the real test. No man will ever climb higher than Hillary did that day at 29,002 feet above sea level. He had reached the pinnacle. But in Genesis 22, we find a climb that was in some ways much more difficult than Hillary's ascent of Everest. When Abraham climbed Mount Moriah with his promised son, Isaac, he faced the ultimate test of faith and endurance. The final exam to end all final exams. It represents the story represents the idea of like just the pinnacle of sacrifice for Abraham and the pinnacle of submission for Isaac, because he was older, like a teenager, and willing to trust in his father and to trust in God. What made the climb so agonizing wasn't the train. It wasn't because it was the highest mountain in the world. It was the assignment that was to be carried out at the top. And God asked Abraham to offer his own son as a sacrifice, a son who was the very promise of God himself. It was inconceivable. How could this possibly be? But through this test, God was saying to Abraham, I think you've matured to a new level of faith, and I believe I can test you, and you're going to prove to be faithful. And in a single afternoon, Abraham's hope was put to the test. His faith was put to the test. His love was put to the test. God will have nothing less than all of us. And Abraham offered God all that he had. So my question for you today is, will you give God all that you have? Genesis 22:1 says, sometime later God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am, he replied. Let's just stop there for a minute before we go on to verse 2. Because here I am, that response blows my mind. It shames me because I don't think that I would say that so willingly. And maybe you don't think so either. Or maybe you think you do, but would you really? You know why we don't? Because it could be a test. It could be a difficult task. And so we're kind of scared to say, wait, okay, God, here I am, like whatever you have for me. But Abraham and Moses, Samuel, find this throughout the Bible, they answer God with the response of a servant. Okay, God, here I am. Whatever you have for me, God, I'm willing. And yet, look how God used Abraham, Moses, and Samuel. And now imagine how God could potentially use you. God could use us if we're just willing. Genesis 22 continues, verse 2. Then God said, take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, go to the mountain of Moriah, sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about. At this point, I think we would probably regret ever saying, here I am. But the big difference between greatness and nothingness is a willing spirit. Get ready to make the climb. Today is your day.